Why did you give a particular paper?
You offered one.
Yes, that's true.
But this is not it.
No, I changed my mind.
But this is irregular.
I didn't realize it mattered.
It's a discourtesy.
Or bad manners. Oh, I'm sorry.
You cannot give this paper. We do not have copies.
Do you mean that philosophical papers require some sort of clearance?
The translators cannot work without copies.
Oh. Well, don't worry. It's not a technical paper. If we decline to define rights as fictions, albeit with the force of truth, there are only two senses in which humans could be said to have rights. Firstly, humans might be said to have certain rights if they had collectively and mutually agreed to give each other these rights. This would merely mean that humanity is a rather large club with club rules, but it's not what is generally meant by human rights. It's not what Locke meant, and it's not what the American founding fathers meant when, taking the hint from Locke, they held certain rights to be unalienable, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The early Americans claimed these as the endowment of God, which is the second sense in which humans might be said to have rights. This is a view more encouraged in some communities than in others. I do not wish to dwell on it here, except to say that it is a view and not a deduction, and that I do not hold it myself. What strikes us is the consensus about an individual's rights put forward both by those who invoke God's authority and by those who invoke no authority at all, other than their own idea of what is fair and sensible. The first article of the American Constitution, guaranteeing freedom of religious observance, of expression, of the press, and of assembly, is closely echoed by Articles 28 and 32 of the no less admirable Constitution of Czechoslovakia, our generous hosts on this occasion. Likewise, protection from invasion of privacy, from unreasonable search, and from interference with letters and correspondence, guaranteed to the American people by Article 4, is likewise guaranteed to the Czech people by Article 31. Is such a consensus remarkable? Not at all. If there is a God, we, his creation, would doubtless subscribe to his values. And if there's not a God, he, our creation, would undoubtedly be credited with values which we think are to be fair and sensible. Ethics was once regarded as a sort of monument, a ghostly Eiffel Tower constructed of Platonic entities like honesty, loyalty, fairness, and so on, all bolted together and consistent with each other, harmoniously stressed so as to keep the edifice standing up. An ideal against which we measured our behavior. The tower has long been demolished. In our own time, linguistic philosophy proposes that the notion of, say, justice has no existence outside the ways in which we choose to employ the word, and indeed consists only of the way in which we employ it. In other words, that ethics is not the inspiration of our behavior, but merely the creation of our utterances. And yet common observation shows us that this view demands qualification. A small child who cries, "That's not fair," when punished for something done by his brother or sister, is apparently appealing to an idea of justice which is, for want of a better word, natural. And we must see that natural justice, however illusory, does inspire many people's behavior much of the time. As an ethical utterance, it seems to be an attempt to define a sense of rightness which is not simply derived from some other utterance elsewhere. Now, a philosopher exploring the difficult terrain of right and wrong should not be over-impressed by the argument a child would know the difference. But when, let us say, we're being persuaded that it's ethical to put someone in prison for reading or writing the wrong books, it's well to be reminded that you can persuade a man to believe almost anything, provided he's clever enough. But it's much more difficult to persuade someone less clever. sense of right and wrong which precedes utterance. It is individually experienced, and it concerns one person's dealings with another person. From this experience, we built a system of ethics which is a sum of individual acts of recognition of individual right. Now, if this is so, the implications are serious for a collective or state ethic which finds itself in conflict with individual rights and seeks, in the name of the people, to impose its values on the very individuals who comprise the state. The illogic of this maneuver is an embarrassment to totalitarian systems. An attempt is sometimes made to answer it by consigning the whole argument to bourgeois logic, which is a concept no easier to grasp than bourgeois physics or bourgeois astronomy. No, the fallacy must lie elsewhere.
Klid, prosím, budova hoří. Všichni ven, jeden za druhým. Fire! Leave quietly.
Voláme pana Hajka, cestujícího na československé lince Praha-Moskva odlet 16 hodin, aby se dostavil k recepci v hlavní odletové hale.
You picked the wrong cue, old man. Russian roulette. And Chetwynd. Empty your pockets.
Britské aerolinie oznamují odlet linky číslo BI 809 do Londýna. Prosíme cestující, aby se odebrali k východu číslo 4. British Airways announces the departure of flight number BT 809 to London. Will passengers please proceed to gate 4 for boarding?